that involves purchasing technology from a Chinese firm. Let me be clear. I do not want, and I do not believe any of our committee members wants a cent of the funding benefiting China in any way and being held hostage. So I hope today's witnesses will shed some light on the vetting process to make sure China and Chinese companies are not turning taxpayer-funded American innovation into a windfall for our geopolitical adversaries. Between the IRA and the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Department of Energy received nearly $100 billion to support new.
Now, meanwhile, core inflation and management of cost increases that removes energy and food prices because of the volatility is expected to be up 4% from last year. Both of these figures would show that prices rose less in September than they did in August, and prices for consumers rose in August because the cost of gas has spiked 10% from July. Even the Federal Reserve has raised the interest rates sharply from March through this summer as it tried to get inflation under control. It doesn't mean prices are slower than they were. Instead, they're rising at a slower rate. Still, those slow increases have been a relief to some consumers, and wages have been rising faster than inflation has, which makes it easier for people to afford goods and services. And now that the Virginia governor has signed a new Virginia budget, there's an opportunity for eligible taxpayers to receive one-time refunds. Now, there is the second time in recent years that the Commonwealth has returned a surplus revenue to Virginians. The state moves with a trend where many states send residents so-called stimulus checks and tax rebate payments. However, not everyone is eligible for it, causing some difficulties. Under the budget passed by Virginia lawmakers, eligible Virginia single filers may receive up to $200, while joint filers can expect a rebate of up to $400. It's important to note that to receive a rebate, you must file your taxes by November, so if you haven't already done so, be sure to do so by the deadline, or else you won't get that stimulus. On the other hand, eligible Virginia taxpayers who didn't receive tax refunds through direct deposit will receive their rebate via paper check or sent in the mail. Major Social Security update. There is some news from the Social Security Administration. They're making some changes, and according to Yahoo News, it's already being done because, well, the Social Security Administration annual cost of a living adjustment is designed to help Social Security SSI recipients retain their buying power amid rising inflation, and there is increases which are issued annually are determined using the CPIW, which itself is a measure of the changes in prices for consumer goods and services. The Labor Bureau actually releases a revised CPIW each month, reflecting the changes in pricing concerns for consumer goods and services. Now, September's price index containing the final set is used to determine the COLA. It's scheduled to be published Thursday, and the most recent estimate for 2024 COLA is somewhere around 3%, as projected by the Senior Citizens Group. Even still, the League warns that a 3% increase would only add an extra $57 a month to an average recipient's benefit. The Senior Citizens League has stated because retiree costs are rising at a far more rapid pace than the COLA raised benefits, a study found that the Social Security benefit of just $2,000 per month would have just been required just to maintain the same level of buying power as in 2000. The League had also noted that Medicare Part B premiums, which are automatically deducted from Social Security checks, have yet to be announced, and the group expects the premiums to increase by about $15 from $164. The SSA is expected to announce its cost of living adjustment for 2024, and the increased benefits are payable starting Thursday. Next year, January 2024, Democrats Sherrod Brown and Bill Cassidy have recently introduced the Improving Employment Options Act to make it easier for Americans with disabilities to apply for the Social Security Disability Program and cut waste in the program by improving vocational data and eligibility criteria. Senator Brown said for too long, people in Ohio have disabilities that have been at an unfair advantage because of the outdated economic data used by the Social Security Administration. This bill will require SA to use today's data to run today's programs and ensure that disabled Americans are not unfairly punished. To qualify for the Social Security Disability Program, individuals must have no job opportunities available because of their condition. And last week, Joe Brown and Cassidy have made the first bipartisan push in order to reform the program, which has not been updated in nearly 40 years. The center's plan, while actually saving penalties and elimination act, would update SSI's asset limits for the first time since the 1980s to ensure disabled and elderly Americans are able to prepare themselves for a financial emergency without putting the benefits they rely on. Now, folks, we have a 10 news about the fourth stimulus payment that you have to know. Joe Biden is making progress on the fourth stimulus payment, and it's good to know this because there's a ton of information about this stimulus check. First of all, looming cuts to monthly benefits are set to affect the millions of low income. In just a couple of days, many will notice smaller monthly benefit checks, and several Democrats want to take action on this. Many are trying to fall into food security, and now When the crisis aid has boosted food stamp benefits cuts next week again, millions of the low-income Americans will see smaller balances in the accounts that they use to pay for groceries, leaving food banks bracing for a spike in demand. As of March 1st, the emergency allotment for individuals and households enrolled in federal SNAP program will end in 32 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and the Virgin Islands. This means that recipient households will see their monthly grocery allocation reduced by at least $95. And according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, that equates to cutting roughly $9 per person on average, for about $6.10. And the change comes when food prices in January had increased 10% over the same last month. For instance, extending the enhanced credit before the year ends. The post-election period, everybody, could be a key opportunity for revisiting the proposal. It's a more optimism time compared to last year, as lawmakers are at a year-end tax deal to revisit corporate tax cuts put in place in 2017. Advocates hope an enhanced child tax credit can be included in that package. And Brown said in a recent interview, no more tax breaks for big corporations and the wealthy unless the child tax credit is with it. According to Elaine Mag, an expert at the Urban Bookings Tax Policy Center, there were the few key features behind the success of the 2021 credit, in addition to the higher credit amounts that monthly payments. And now, the credit was made fully refundable. That made it possible for low-income households to access the full credit. Plus, don't forget about this, everybody. Experts say that when lawmakers negotiate on new terms, an enhanced child tax credit may not be as generous as the 2021 crisis-era relief. Now, child poverty is poised to increase relative to last year. Economists have said that Congress had a real choice on whether or not to take action and stern some of the rise in poverty, and the work requirements may be a sticking point in the negotiations between the two parties. Over the past few months, Americans can now apply for additional crisis relief assistance. The administration has announced and confirmed that hundreds of billions of more dollars are being put towards more financial aid for the people. New checks worth up to $500 have also been approved, so make sure to watch until the end to see how to claim this money. So many Virginia residents can get a check in the mail or money deposited into your bank account if you're eligible for this year's tax rebate. The rebate is part of a bipartisan plan that's passed through the state, and in this year's generally assembled session, the Virginia Department of Taxation website lists more information regarding those rebate payments for eligible taxpayers. So according to the website, not all taxpayers will qualify for this. Officials said that if you had a tax liability last year, you can actually receive up to $250 if you filed individually and up to $500 if you filed jointly. Virginia's tax commissioner said the rebates would start to be used and issued for all returns that were filed by September 5th. The plan is to issue 250,000 refunds daily. Over the course of the program, though, is the end of the year. The state expects to issue about 3 million more one-time tax rebates. Officials anticipate sending roughly 1 million rebates through direct deposit.